All right, today we are diving into a topic that's become, well, absolutely essential for any business that wants to succeed long-term. We're talking about ethics, and look, this is way more than just some corporate buzzword. It's the actual bedrock of how companies build a lasting advantage.
So let me just start by throwing a big question out there. What if a company's character was its most valuable asset? I mean, think about that. More valuable than its products, its brand, or its cash in the bank. This one idea is really at the heart of everything we're going to talk about today.
Okay, so before we get into the whole business side of things, let's just take a step back. We need to be on the same page about what ethics even means. We hear the word thrown around all the time, but what is it, really?
You know, the origin of the word itself tells us so much. Ethics comes from the Latin word ethos, and ethos means character. So right from the get-go, you can see ethics isn't just about a dusty rulebook. It's about the fundamental identity, the character of a person, or, in this case, a whole company.
Really, you can think of ethics as a kind of compass. It's the tool we use to navigate all the big questions, right? It helps point us toward what's right versus wrong, what's fair versus unfair, and it guides how we treat each other and what we owe to the world around us.
So where do these big corporate values even come from? Well, they don't just appear out of thin air. It all starts with individual people. Our personal beliefs, our own moral compasses, that's the foundation. And then those values sort of seep upwards into the organization, and that's when they become the application for how the entire company operates.
Okay, so this idea of character has been around forever, but why has it suddenly become such a massive deal for every single business out there? What's changed? Well, it really boils down to this one simple, powerful truth. A while back, if a company messed up, maybe only a few people would know. Not anymore. Today, every little slip-up is put under a giant global microscope, and it happens instantly. The stakes are just so much higher now.
And here's why that is. Technology has totally flipped the script. It's not just easier for us to find out when a company does something wrong, it's unbelievably easy to share that news with the entire planet in a matter of seconds. And because of that, companies are now practically forced to pour more time and money into their ethics because the fallout from getting it wrong is just too big to ignore.
So we get why it's so important now. But how does a company actually build an ethical culture? I mean, how do you take this from being a nice idea on a presentation to something that's real and alive in the day-to-day workplace?
And this is the most important part. It has to start at the very top. This is not something you can just hand off to the HR department. The leadership team, by their own actions, by their own philosophy, they set the ethical tone for every single person in the company, every single day.
So what does that look like in practice? Well, first, leaders have to walk the walk. It's what they do that matters. That behavior then becomes the guidepost for all the employees, helping them make better calls. And here's the wild part. It actually makes the company more productive. Why? Because when people have a clear ethical map, they can make good decisions faster and with way more confidence.
Okay, so we've seen how ethics works inside a company. But that's not where the story ends. The impact doesn't just stop at the office door. A company's character creates this huge ripple effect that touches literally everyone connected to it. So who gets caught in these ripples? Well, you can basically break it down into three major groups. You've got the employees who do the work, the management team that steers the ship, and the investors who are betting on its future. Every single one of them has a huge stake in the company's ethical choices. And when a company's ethics are strong, the impact is just overwhelmingly positive. For employees, you're talking about better morale, more loyalty. They actually want to be there. For management, it creates a much more stable organization. And for investors, it gives them confidence and protects that all-important public reputation, which we're about to see is the real key to the whole thing.
Which brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. Let's get to the question everyone is probably thinking, what about the money? How does being good actually connect to financial success? Because let's be honest, it's not just about feeling good, it's about being profitable.
And this is a really big deal. For investors, a company's reputation is paramount. Seriously, it's often the #1 thing they look at. If there's even a whiff of scandal or a feeling that a company is shady, investors are going to run for the hills.
So you basically have two paths a company can go down, and the difference is night and day. If your ethics are poor, that leads to a trashed reputation, that makes investors nervous, and surprise, surprise, that leads to lower profits. But if your ethics are strong, you build a positive image, which creates investor confidence, and that paves the way for real, sustainable, long-term success. The line between them is direct, and it's undeniable. So I'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on.
In this crazy, transparent world we live in, where everyone is watching and every move can go viral, is having strong, unwavering ethics no longer just a nice-to-have? Is it maybe the only truly sustainable way to run a business anymore?